All right then. It looks like I am finally live. Huzzah! Cool. Hi everybody. This is just me trying out a live stream on, well, number one, a different day of the week, but also a different time, because I heard feedback from a few people that because I usually do my live streams during the afternoon, it meant that they were unable to tune in to see any of these live streams. So, if you guys are out there, please go ahead and start leaving some comments and questions in the chat. I will probably be on for about an hour or so to answer any and all of your questions about anything related to poi spinning, flow arts culture, my favorite poi, etc. So go ahead and start those questions coming in if you're out there watching. I'm going to just start this off by doing a little bit of a plug for the video that went live on my YouTube channel earlier today, which is a interview that I did with Tara McManus. She is a flow artist from New York City, and she has had one of the most storied careers as a flow artist that I think I have ever seen of anybody in this world. She originally started off as a performer and then got into the world of making flow arts clothing. Her company, Third Earth Fireproof, was the first, and I'm pretty sure is still, the only company that makes fire-resistant clothing for flow artists that is made out of aramid fibers. That is basically, it's Kevlar clothing. So you don't get much safer than that with the clothing that you wear for fire spinning. She also was heavily involved in starting up a flow space in New York City called the Flowasis that regularly hosts a series of classes for beginners and intermediates on a variety of tools. And she shared a whole bunch of the lessons that she had learned in the course of starting those two businesses. There's stuff in there that was totally news to me, and that I am totally going to work on working into my own classes and things like that. And then finally, we spent almost an hour talking about her experiences bringing safe and legal fire performance to New York City. She was instrumental in the development of the New York Fire Department developing a fire performer as well as producer license. I have one. Actually, I have one of each. I'll just show you guys the producer license here right quick. But it's essentially a certificate that you can go down to, it's hard to read, there we go. This is a certificate that essentially you can go down to the fire department in New York City and pass both an oral and written exam and have a little bit more documentation, like a performance resume and some stuff like that, and get that. And that allows you to perform in venues that have been inspected in New York City, which is really, really cool. Because I used to live in New York City, and the idea of doing legal fire performance while I lived there was, nobody even talked about it because nobody believed that it was even remotely possible. But Tara has had a role in making that happen in New York City, which is really awesome. So it's a long interview. It's an hour and 45 minutes long, but there is so much incredible information in it. So I would highly recommend that each of you out there watching right now, if you have ever thought about starting your own studio, your own flow arts company, or getting involved in bringing fire safety to your community or talking with your local fire authorities, watch this video because there is so much incredible information in it. Yeah, I'm still just blown away by all of the things that we talked about in the course of that interview. So go check that out. That is the most recent video on my channel. It is how to bring safe and legal fire performance to your community with Tara McManus. It's a Profiles in Flow video. So now that that's out of the way, I see some folks have been throwing in some questions, and we have one of our lovely cats in the background here. This is Theo. Everybody say hi, Theo. Yeah, so I'm going to basically spend the next around about 45 minutes answering whatever questions you guys can come up with for me, yeah? So send those questions my way, and pretty please, if there are any of you guys out there that have the means, use that super chat function. It helps out the channel. If you got $1 or $2 to throw my way, it makes my life a lot easier, and it makes these videos a lot easier to produce as well. Every little bit helps out. So thanks in advance. Cool. So I'm going to start off with Mitch Goss. Mitch asks, where do you start when choreographing to a specific song? How do you write down or remember the steps? Hey, I actually have a video on this. So the thing that you want to do is a technique called blocking. And that's that you're going to take that song, and like you want to do this with a notebook or something like that, a piece of paper and a pencil. And as you're listening to this song, you're going to write it out in like sections or blocks, basically. So for example, say you've got like a little intro that goes for like 15 seconds and it's like 8 measures long and everything. A measure, by the way, is as you're listening to music, you can kind of count along to this like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, right? And you go through the entire song that way, and basically you chart out the dynamics in the song. You see where new instrumentation gets added, where there's lyrics, things like that. And when you block out a song like this, you can basically figure out section by section how long a piece of choreography you need to insert into there. This is actually the technique that I used last year when I put together that choreography to Leave an Open Door by Roger Klein and the Peacemakers, which was an incredibly difficult process because I had to essentially write out I wrote the choreography in 2 blocks. One block in May and 1 block in August. And I then published the sections of that choreography out of order because I kind of wanted it to be a surprise for people. And I figured if I published too many sections that were back to back, people would start to like figure out what I was getting to on that one. But yeah, basically you want to start off by blocking out the song and figuring out how long the pieces need to be and where they need to be and everything. And that's a great step to start with. There are some other techniques that definitely work as well, but I think when you're starting off, that's the best way to go about it. And over time, you'll start to do things like cueing into lyrical cues and things like that. And you'll find things that kind of live and breathe and have an organic fit with the music that you're writing to. But that comes later. For right now, just think of the song as being built out of these blocks. Chart out what the blocks are and figure out what you want to do inside of those blocks. And it can be things that like you have totally choreographed down to like, count by count, beat by beat. Or it can be things like, okay, so for the next 2 measures, I'm going to do body tracers, and it's just going to free flow. And I just know that I need to count off 2 8 counts in my head, and when I'm done, I'm moving on to the next thing. All of these things work. So, yeah. That would be my advice, Mitch. Thanks for the question. Andrew Lau, I'm learning some poi tricks for my summer camp. Fantastic. I've got the basics down by watching your videos, but I haven't gotten into advanced moves yet. What do you recommend I do next? By the way, I can do up to 4-beat, windmills, and the very basics. So if you got a lot of the basics down, I would start to build combos out of them. In terms of looking at advanced moves, probably before too long, you want to get into flowers and hybrids. Because that's where freedom of movement comes in. Like, I honestly think that it is kind of a really unkind joke that we play on a lot of poi spinners that when we start them off, we usually give them like 3-beat weaves and thread the needles and things like that. And even if you're doing things like say fountains and the like, fundamentally these are all tricks in which you're basically keeping your hands together, right? Whereas you get a whole lot more range of movement if your hands are allowed to move around however they see fit. And this happens when you start playing around with flowers. So I would say that your best bet is to start working on flowers. Work on getting down your anti-spins, work on getting down your in-spins, and that way you'll be able to do things like pull hybrids out and everything and be able to change timing and direction on the fly so that you can go wherever you want to. And it's that kind of freedom of movement that audiences like really eat up and everything. So I would say go there. Yeah. Great question, Andrew. Great question. Final D, my man Drix. My man Final D. And Andrea Kiryu, I hope I pronounced that right. Why doesn't any flow artist make fire spinning tutorials on YouTube? Is it a safety factor? I've made fire spinning tutorials on YouTube, actually. In fact, if you search on YouTube for the term fire spinning safety, one of my videos will pop up. And it kind of came out of working with whatchamacallit, the Flow Arts Institute on their fire safety program, because they have a certification, and you basically you watch a series of instructional videos and you take a test from them and you can get certified in fire safety, which I think is an excellent idea, and I think more people ought to do it. The biggest issue that I had with the way that they're doing things is like everything is just like this 2-hour series of videos, and for somebody who's just starting to get into spinning, they don't really, there's no one video I can point them to that's like, okay, this is the absolute most important stuff that you can't afford to miss. And so I made that video. And it was part of my Flow Arts 101 series that I did last year. It's like fire dancing safety procedures or something like that. So give that a look-see, because that is like the most essential fire spinning information that I had access to at the time. For a while, I was thinking about doing another series that specifically was geared towards fire spinning and fire safety. I ran into a lot of problems with it, though. I wrote out a series of scripts, and I sent them around to a lot of people that I knew for feedback. And the problem I kept running into was that the more people that I looped in on these scripts, the longer it took to get feedback. And it was one of those things that I kind of felt like stuck in some cases, because people would like ask me to make certain changes, or I didn't hear from them for a while. I'd be like, oh, this is fine. And then I would finally hear from them, like, well, X, Y, and Z needs to change. And it's like, oh, okay, so back to the drawing board on that. And honestly, just like my energy kind of ran out on that project. I might bring it back. I don't know. I've asked a number of times on my Patreon. Like, my Patreon supporters have a lot of input into the videos that I make, and I've asked a few times now how important to them it is that I do that series. And what it seems like is that people want to learn tricks more. I think it just seems like there's a bigger audience for that. And, you know, that, sometimes that just is what it is. I hope that there are more people that, that get onto the fire safety train. And if there are folks out there that want to learn about fire spinning safety, go to Flow Arts Institute and sign up for their fire safety course. I absolutely guarantee you that you are going to learn something in the course of taking that online class. It is fantastic. So yeah, the short answer is that people do. I have. It's not a safety factor. It's not a liability factor. I honestly think that the biggest reason there aren't more videos on fire safety out there is just that there's not that much of an audience for it. So, which is kind of sad, but so it goes. Keep those questions rolling out there, my friends. Keep those questions rolling. And again, if anybody wants to help out the channel, please, if you got $1 or $2 to throw into the super chat, it helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps me be able to keep making these videos. Final D asks, does Kate McCoy still spin poi? I miss her. I actually don't know. So I haven't seen Kate now in like a year and some change. And Kate is an absolute sweetheart. She is just one of my favorite people in the flow arts world. And I would call her a good friend, even outside of all the poi spinning and everything. She is just a really, really beautiful soul and a really, really nice person. A really, really gentle person too. Like, just one of those people who I don't think I've ever heard an ill word about anybody come out of her mouth. Um, so Kate went through some. She went through about a 2 year period with some very, very, very intense personal issues. That is not my story to tell. But suffice to say, she had a lot of challenges come into her life, and flow arts just was not a priority in all that, and it should not have been. There were other things to worry about, and I think that a lot of the stuff that she went through in those 2 years put a lot of things in perspective for her. And I think when she came out of it, she kind of realized that, spinning balls on strings maybe wasn't the most important thing to her in the world. And, I'm not going to speak for her. I don't know if that's what happened there, but, she definitely withdrew from the scene a whole lot. And, she's still out there. She's still kicking. Food justice is an incredibly important thing to her. She's last I saw her, she was involved in a program in Cincinnati where she was delivering like really really delicious and I think for the most part vegan meals to people in the local community there. So I don't know if she still spends poi, but is she still doing good in this world? Absolutely, absolutely. Kate is a really, really incredible person, and she's still out there doing incredible things. They just may not involve poi spinning. Andrea Kiru, thank you for the $2. Thank you for the super chat. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Tibar M says, fire spinning always seems to be the goal for new spinners. And after spinning for over 2 years, I probably lit my poi twice. I love my LEDs more. Yeah, I mean, I'll confess that I very, very rarely spin fire. Part of it is the difficulty of acquiring fuels where I live. Shockingly enough, I live in Washington, D.C. They're a little sensitive here about things that can go boom. It's not impossible, but it's kind of difficult. There aren't that many places you can go to. And, I always think of spinning fire as being almost like speed chess, where once you light up, you've got like, maybe 5 minutes tops to do all the things that you can think of in your head that you would like to do. And it's just very, very, it becomes a challenge, And I think one of those things that I really notice is a kind of hurdle that some people go over when they're going from beginner to intermediate poi spinning is that they finally get to the point where when they light up, they realize once they once their poi have gone out that there was at least 1 or 2 tricks that they didn't get to during the course of their burn. That like the number of tricks they have access to has gotten to that point. I like spinning LEDs because I can go for a long time and just explore things and everything. Fire puts a lot of pressure on you to get things done very, very quickly, to have an idea of what you want to do with it and everything. But both are good. Both have qualities that are great for the performer. And it's got to be said, there's something that feels very elemental about spinning fire props. There's something that feels very connecting with that element is really incredible. So yeah, I like both. I tend to spin my LEDs more as well, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's like necessarily a goal to spin fire more or to not spin fire. I honestly think that it's whatever makes you happy. If you're happy spinning LEDs, awesome, keep going. If the idea of spinning fire makes you happy, go for it. That's super rad. The whole point of this is to do something that you enjoy. So, pursue whatever line that takes you down. And there's no wrong answer there. There isn't. Cool. Final D. Oh, damn, I hope all is well. Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, I hope all is well, too. I should actually really, write her and check up on her and see how she's doing. Which, I mean, her brother just recently got married, which is awesome. And, yeah, so I think everything's fine in her world, but it couldn't hurt to check up on that. That's the one thing that I was really sad about not going to Kinetic last year, is that Kinetic is the fire festival that's in Kate's neck of the woods, and it meant that I didn't get to see her last year. And you know, Kate and I are both very, very quiet people, and like whenever I go to see her, it's literally like, we'll sit around like kicking back a 6-pack of beers, and we'll watch Game of Thrones and just talk about all the stuff going on in our life and everything. Yeah, I should write her. The No Spin Ninja says, I'm 13 and I've been spinning poi for a year, and I have just got into fire poi and have seen your fire poi tutorial. Excellent! And I'm having trouble with stalls. What do you think would be most liked by a crowd? The stalls? Honestly, like, when it comes to crowd stuff, using stalls as like a tool for accenting music, right? So let's say you got a piece of music on and everything, and you're spinning, and you could be doing weaves, you could be doing flowers, it doesn't really matter. And you have that moment where boom, you have that beat that hits, and then boom, chick, chick. You find your way in and out of things using that beat as a guide. Stalls are a great tool for great tool for doing percussive work. Boom, with your poi. This is my favorite thing to do with stalls right now, is to treat them almost like a musical instrument in and of themselves, to accent beats and to kind of find my way around just different dynamic shifts and everything. Starting the move, stopping move, and also too, geez, I shouldn't have sat down. Other things that crowds really dig that involve stalls, one of those things is horizontal stacks. I have an old video on those, as well as a 1-minute tutorial on how to do these. And the other thing, of course, is stall chasers. Again, I have a 1-minute tutorial on how to do these, so you should check that out. Yeah? Cool. Also, I think it's pretty cool, but one of those things that's also really good for crowds is doing things like plane breaking stalls, like boom, boom, chick, 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 boom, boom, and boom, chick, womp, womp, womp. That's stuff that not a lot of crowds have seen before. So yeah, there's 3 ideas for stalls that crowds really dig. So try those out. Let me know how that goes for you. Good question. Keep those questions rolling here, guys. Keep those questions rolling. And again, if you got a couple bucks to spare, please use that super chat function. It helps me out and it helps out the channel. It helps me be able to keep on producing these videos. Cool. Crypto Kush, it's hot at first. Share or burn with someone. Go second. Good advice. Skrillex1Poi. Hi again. Hi there, Skrillex1Poi. Ashen Fire says, hello, Drex and friends. Hello, Ashen Fire. Welcome to the party. Andrew Kiryu says, I've been a fire safety for 6 years with my fire conclave. Hey, dude. Awesome. Sorry, Andrea. Awesome. That, being a safety is one of the most important things that you can do in this community. So thank you for doing that, for keeping the people in your conclave safe. This is my first year performing with the group. If we get invited into Burning Man's Great Circle, any advice for performing in a group? Yeah, so basically, so I've led a group to Burning Man now for 4 years running. I'm sitting out Burning Man this year. But the things that really mattered for getting into Burning Man those 4 years were to, number one, put on a show. Have something that tells a story. Because they're basically looking for a couple things as they look at the people who are auditioning to get into the Great Circle at Burning Man. They are looking for they're looking for spectacle. So if you've got really interesting fire tools that you want to create, they tend to really enjoy those. and also dance and musicality. There are far too many people that approach it kind of from the perspective of, oh, I'm going to stand in one spot and do 3 tricks, and now I'm going to move 3 feet this way, and I'm going to do 2 more tricks. They're really looking for something that's going to look more dynamic on playa. Like, this really, really is a performance. So if you're in the process of developing choreography and everything, what I would honestly recommend is look up videos of dance troupes on YouTube and see if you can take notes from the ways that they use space and they interact with each other and everything, and see if you can apply that to your choreography. Because my troupe, all 4 years, we approached our performance as being primarily a dance performance that just so happened to involve fire and props. And we got in every year, and I think that that was a big reason why. So keep an eye out for that. Cool. The No Spin Ninjas, thank you. You're welcome, No Spin Ninjas. Dan Dollar says, hi Drex, thank you for teaching me to spin poi. You are very welcome. Your video a few days ago was awesome. Do you mean the one from Mexico? I'm trying to learn tangles. I don't see you use them a lot. What's your take on them, / do you have any tips? I actually use them constantly, but I never use them in performances. So like, basically the most important tangle you can probably learn is this right here. This is what's called stirring the pot. And it involves having your poi tangled in such a way that one of them is in a vertical plane and one of them is on a horizontal plane. So it's like it's kind of atomic. And from here, you can turn it into like a butter flute, or you can, hi there, kitty, you are like all about the cuddles tonight. Or you can turn it into like a hyperloop and take it to the other side of your body. But probably first you want to learn how to do air wraps and hyperloops, going from one side of your body to the other. There are lots of great videos out there of people that play with tangles. Joe Graff, I believe Eli Harrod does a lot of tangle stuff too. And like, once you get down to very basics, doing the air wraps and the hyperloops, then getting into things like stirring the pot and seeing all the different ways in which the tethers can interact with each other in kind of 3D space and everything, it opens up a lot of doors, and you start seeing places where you can get the poi to start moving back and forth between your arms and understand, and I totally effed that up, how to get them untangled in various sundry ways. There is an air wrap as well as hyperloop 1-minute tutorial on my channel, so you should go check those out, because I think that those will help you at the start, at least. And then, yeah, go look up videos from Joe Graff and I think Eli Harrod, because they do really incredible things with tangles. And I think tangles can be very, very beautiful, but they have to be used the right way. So yeah, that is what I would say about that. Thanks for the question, Dan Dollar. Yeah, keep those questions rolling here, guys. Keep those questions rolling. I've got probably about a half an hour left on here. We'll see how that goes, though. And also, once again, if any of you guys have a couple bucks you want to throw towards the channel, please use that super chat function. That helps me out. That helps the channel out. It helps me be able to keep on making videos for you guys. So thank you in advance. Spin Clown Galaxy says, love everything you bring to the spinning community. Why, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the knowledge you share. I always look forward to new videos. Thanks, Spin Clown. That's really good to hear. So I got a question for you, Spin Clown, and all you guys out there. What is your favorite type of video that I make? Please let me know down in the comments, because these are things that I'm always curious about. I tend to be very restless when it comes to my creativity, so I'll have ideas that I'm super into for a little while, or experiments I want to try out, but I sometimes don't see the forest for the trees and have a bad tendency to go off on a lot of experiments and then come back and be like, well, But which of those was actually serving my audience? So let me know. Which are the videos that you guys like to watch the most? Cool. Lethargic says, what would you say is the most difficult poi technique you can perform? It depends. Juggling with poi has an incredibly steep learning curve, but I don't think that it's the most difficult thing that you can do with poi. Partially, hi there, Theo. My goodness, you're snuggling tonight. Here. We're going to have a cameo appearance by Theo, the pet cat here. This is Theo and Meta. Everybody say hi, Theo. Or Theo. Anyhow, so there you go, baby chill. So I think that the most difficult poi technique to learn is floats, isolations, and kind of unit circle hybrids and the like. A while back, my friend Keith Marshall and I had a conversation wherein we were talking about the learning curve of poi because, historically it's been something that jugglers have kind of looked down on poi because they're just like, oh, this is silly because it's too easy to learn. And oh, no claws. They kind of look down on poi because it's too easy to learn. And so we were starting to think about what poi techniques actually take the same amount of time to learn that juggling techniques do. And we realized that the one that fit the bill closest was isolations and the things that come from isolations. And when performing isolations, it's one of those things that like people in your audience can tell almost instantly that this is something very difficult that they can't do themselves. And it creates such an interesting visual illusion in the process, right? One of the hardest tricks I have ever had to learn was horizontal cat-eye versus isolation, which horizontal cat-eyes are a huge challenge in and of themselves, but combining them together with an isolation just takes them to an entirely different level. So I think the techniques around isolations are probably one of the more difficult poi techniques to learn how to do, and learn how to do cleanly. There are plenty of people that learn isolations, and then it takes them years to get them presentable or to perfect them and everything. And I think that that would be my vote for the hardest technique to learn. Also because it's one of those techniques that's very unique to poi. There's no way to cross-train that. If you say learned how to juggle clubs, you've got some idea of how to juggle poi. It's going to be harder because it's a dynamic rather than static prop. But you got a rough idea of what you're looking at. Whereas there's no way to train an isolation without just using poi on it, and it's a really, really hard technique to learn. So that is what I would say is my vote for the most difficult. Cody, keep all those questions coming, guys. Cody Hanley says, also Tangles, when snowing stirring the pot and butter flaps, any advice on where to go or where to look for more tutorials and inspiration? Go look up Joe Graff's videos. He's one of the better poi spinners I know of out there that has a grasp on tangles and just like can really flow with them in ways that I cannot. So go hit up Joe Graff for that stuff. Good question. Skrillex1 poi, do you know how to use 8-ring illusion? No, I've actually never, ever spun 8 rings. I have plenty of friends that have, but I have never touched 8 rings myself. I understand the mechanics there, and honestly, like, if you know how to do finger twirling for double staff, and, are like familiar with Bugang, for example, I think that, you've got kind of some cliff notes on how to use 8 rings, but I never have myself, no. But I think they look cool, for sure. Nick DiRenzo says, how to use fire safely. Okay, so this is the cliff notes on this, and what I'm going to tell you is you need to go look up my video on fire safety, because that is kind of like the most important information. So number one, make sure that check your hardware before you get into spinning fire. Make sure that there's no loose Kevlar or loose equipment or anything like that, just like do a quick checkup on your equipment. Number two, your fuel. Um, so if you're gonna be spinning fire poi, basically pretty much anything other than fire breathing, probably your best bet is to use white gas or the closest equivalent that you have access to, which, as I just discovered last month, you can get in Mexico too. Took me 3 days to figure out where to buy white gas in Mexico, and it turns out you can buy it at just about any paint store. They use it as paint thinner. But yeah, you go in and you ask for gasolina blanca, and they will hook you up. I believe also it is available in Australia under the name Shellite. I haven't had that verified though, so take it with a grain of salt. Very, very, very hard to find in Europe though. So if you cannot find white gas, your next best option is ultra pure lamp oil, which is very, very widely available. After that, your best bet is kerosene. Kerosene is one of those things that you can literally find anywhere that you go. In developing nations, it is frequently found at gas stations because people use that for their cooking stoves. So those are your best bets for fuel. Once you have your fuel, you want to put it in a container that is airtight. Usually what you want to use is an empty paint can with a lid. The reason you want to do this is because if the fuel gets lit on fire for whatever reason, you can just drop the lid on it and it will automatically put itself out. Carbon dioxide is more dense than oxygen is, so after a few seconds of generating carbon dioxide, the number one, the fire will choke itself by having consumed all the oxygen, and number two, it will reduce the volume of gas inside of the container, so it will pull the lid shut. And you basically literally just have to put the lid on and walk away, and it will take care of everything, which is really nice. It's helpful to have a secondary basin that the paint can is sitting inside of to collect any spare fuel that you might accidentally drip as you're pulling your tools out. Once you have your tools out, you want some Ziploc freezer bags, specifically the kind that have the slider on them if you can. What you're going to do is you're going to put your wicks inside of those bags and use the zip on it to close up the bags as tightly as you can, and then spin your prop to use centrifugal force to wring out all of the excess fuel. Open back up the bags and pour the excess fuel that has been wrung out back into your original container. Make sure that you close up your container, and then you're ready to start spinning fire. You want to make sure that you have a safety spotter watching you. Safety spotters should have, at the bare minimum, what's called a fire blanket. And this is something different than, like, if you enter the words fire blanket into Amazon, you're going to come up with something very, very different, and it's not the thing that we usually recommend doing. The best options for fire blankets are duvetine, which is a theatrical fabric that's usually used in making curtains. And it's treated with a fire-resistant chemical. A lot of people will talk about, is there a better side of the duvetine to use? And the answer is no. It's whatever side you want, because what makes it fire-resistant is the chemical that is soaked into it. The chemical is equally soaked on each side, so it doesn't matter which side you're using. Your friend with the safety blanket is going to watch you spin, and if they see any fuel transfer that is any part of your body that gets lit on fire, they're going to call out that body part to you, and they're going to be as specific as possible. And they're going to give you a couple seconds to put it out yourself, because in most cases, it'll either go out on its own, or if you blow on it really quick, it'll go out no problem. In those rare circumstances that they cannot put you out, that you cannot put yourself out, your job is to come up with the safety blanket, put it at the top part of the flame, and essentially bring it down your body, going into the path of where the flame is originating from. And that should usually do the trick. If you want to get put out while your props are still lit, you tell your safety that, and they will put the safety blanket down on the ground, put your props into it, and they basically roll up the safety blanket like a burrito around your props to put it out. Oh, Mitch Goss, thank you for the super chat, man. That's fantastic. Thank you for the $5. That's amazing. Please, anybody else out there who's got a couple bucks, help out the channel. Thank you so much, Mitch. That's amazing. Cool. So once you have, oh, also another thing that the safety really should have is a fire extinguisher. The best possible option for a fire extinguisher. Well, you should really have 2 fire extinguishers, but if that fails, have an ABC handy. And be ready to go either with the fuel depot or with the performer or with anything they happen to accidentally light on fire. Maybe it's a floor, what have you, with that fire extinguisher. So once you're done spinning, you want to pour all of the fuel back into the container that you first purchased it in. If you put together a fuel mixture, there are some people who like to mix half and half, that is half lamp oil and half white gas. Because it burns for longer, but it still has a low ignition temperature thanks to the white gas. You want to put that in the container for the white gas because the fuel has to be treated with the care of the most volatile chemical in it. So even though it's a half and half mixture of lamp oil and white gas, you're going to treat it like it's white gas. Make sure you mark on the container that it's a half and half mixture so you don't mix it up in the future. Yeah. And those are those are kind of the Cliff's Notes. There's a lot more to go into on that. It's really helpful to know the flash points of different fuels. You want to make sure that the clothing you wear is tight weave, natural fibers, that is like cotton, wool, leather, etc., and that there's no holes in it. You also want to make sure that you are not wearing anything that has any synthetic fibers in it, because synthetic fibers are all plastic, and if they get lit on fire, they will melt to your skin, which is really bad. Cool. So those are the Cliff Notes. Now go either watch my video on fire spinning safety or go take the Flow Arts Institute safety course. Thank you. That was a very, very long tangent, but I thought it was important. I hope you guys agree with that. Cool. And there's so many questions for me to go through now. Fantastic. Let's see here. Final D says, how do you stay inspired? The God's honest truth is that I don't. Inspiration kind of comes and goes. What I do is I set long-term goals for myself, and I stick to those. I do the work that's necessary to get to them. There are totally days when I wake up and I have no desire to make videos, I have no desire to spin poi, and I go and I do it anyway, because that's my job. And every single time, woo! Oh my goodness! So many super chats. Thank you, Tibar M. Thank you, Michael. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And $10 from Spin Clown Galaxy. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. This helps keep the channel alive. Woohoo! Oh my God. All you guys that are doing the super chats, please let me know if you have any questions you want answered. I will bump you up in the queue if you do. So inspiration and motivation sound like good things, but they're dirty words in my mind because they are fickle. You will have them one day and you will not have them another day. But a goal is something that you have each and every day. So I stick to the goals and I show up to do the work to reach those goals. And what I find over time is that the satisfaction that I get from producing work and from practicing totally eclipses the kind of temporary satisfaction I get from either inspiration or motivation. And don't get me wrong, there are days when I'm super inspired to do something cool. Like, you know, when I was in Mexico earlier this month, I very consciously decided that I wasn't going to spin for several days. I wanted to give my mind and my body a rest and devote my energies elsewhere. Spent a whole bunch of time actually, you know, photographing things while I was down there because that was important to me. To learn how to be a better photographer because it was going to make me a better videographer as well. And then the last day we were there, I was traveling through Merida, which is a beautiful city. And it was so beautiful that I'm like, I really, really want to come up with, you know, some poi moves that I can do in this space that are going to reflect the way that this space has made me feel. And that was the video. that went live on Tuesday, and it was a moment of great inspiration, and a great project came out of it. But don't depend on either motivation or inspiration, because they are here today and they are gone tomorrow. And keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on your goals. Those are the real key to mastering whatever you're doing and getting long-term satisfaction out of it. Yeah. Cool. So TibRM says, I like those 1-minute tutorials. Fantastic. Yeah. We really love if other people on the who are watching out there could tell me too. What are your favorite kind of videos that I make? Help me help you. Yeah, that's where I'll take that. Spin Clown Galaxy. It's great that there are many of different ages getting into the spin arts, and for many great reasons. It's my parents who happen to be in their 60s who enjoy spinning. That's fantastic. I love that people in older generations are getting into this stuff as well. That is fantastic. That makes me very happy to hear. I hope I'm still doing this when I'm in my 60s. My fave vids that you share are your choreographies, which enable our spinning to interpret the music visually. Also, how you break down the moves, and a lot of your tutorials can be feel. Fantastic. I've heard a lot of people talk about how much they enjoy the choreography tutorials. I took off the month of January with those. I will probably be back in February. I will also say that in 2018, even though it was a really fun project to have all of my choreography tutorials add up to one full-length routine, I am not going to do that again in 2018 because that was so much work and it was so difficult to keep it all straight. So it'll all be individual pieces of choreography rather than a full routine. I hope you guys forgive me for that. Ashen Fire says, I agree with Spin Clown Galaxy. I am not a college-age gal anymore, but this year I determined to learn something new, which is artistic, good for the mind and body, and fun. And Poi fit the bill. Fantastic. That's why I picked it up too. Little known fact. I was 26 when I picked up Poi. I was already quite late in life by the first time I picked up a set of Poi. So anybody can pick this up at any point. Like it never feel like it's too late. You can always get into this world. Craig Boyvin says, I've been spinning for about 2 years. Any advice before I get into fire? So the advice that I always give people when they want to spin fire is you're ready to spin fire when you can spin your Poi for 5 minutes solid without hitting yourself once. That's when you're ready to be able to spin fire. Because once your Poi light up, quite frankly, the first probably 6 to 10 times that you light up, your little like mammalian fear reflex of fire is going to kick in, and you're going to completely forget every single trick that you have learned up to that point. So you're going to have to fall back on the most basic skills that you have with Poi. And if you're able to spin for 5 minutes without hitting yourself, that is your happy place. So power to you, and good luck with that. If you've been spinning for about 2 years, I'm sure that you're already there. But when it comes to spinning fire, it's kind of like being a sword swallower. Like sword swallowers essentially have to train over time to short circuit their gag reflex. And fire spinning, you have to train over time to short circuit that like fear reflex of the fire. So it's going to take a little while. It's going to take a few burns. So be prepared for that. The first time you light up on fire may not be a transcendent experience, but after a little while of getting comfortable with it, you will have that experience. So good luck. Go forth. Hey, get down. Cat's trying to eat the plants. Cool. Skrillex1, do you know where I can get rings? I have no idea, I'm afraid. Do a Google search. That's what I would do. Sorry. Claude, Richard 547 says, are Poi easy to use? It depends upon the trick. I personally believe that flowers are quite easy to learn and do. There are some other tricks that are quite hard, like isolations we were talking about earlier. Michael, are you going to any burn festivals this year? Also, I just got some capsules for my pods. I am having trouble with spiral wraps now that I'm transitioning to contact handles. Any tips? Okay, so to answer your first question, are you going to any burn festivals this year? I am going to Flame Festival, which is located in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm one of the people that helps run it. So I will definitely be there, but I don't know if I'm going to be teaching just yet. Aside from that, I would love to go back to wildfire this year, but I have no idea if that's going to happen. It comes down to time, money, and availability. That is a bridge that I will cross at a later date. I applied to teach at Fire Drums. That was the big one that I still wanted to be able to attend and teach and everything. And I got rejected to Fire Drums this year, so I'll not be going to Fire Drums. If you want to see me at a festival, it is probably going to be either Flame Festival or Wildfire. Those are probably the only two that I'm going to hit up this year. If you would like to just see me in general, I do plan on doing workshop tours outside of the fire festivals this year. So if you want me to come to your neck of the woods, shoot me an email, drex@drexfactor.com, and tell me where you'd like me to come through. Hey there, Theo. You are nutball tonight. Cool. So got contacts, capsules for my pods. I'm having trouble with spiral wraps, and I'm transitioning to contact handles. I'm not sure what contact handles means. But so I think what you mean is that you're switching from finger loops to like actual handles, yes? Here, I believe there's my other sets that I'll put here. Oh well. One of the lights on my pocket here went out. I'm going to plug it in right quick so I can still use it in this video. Sorry, 1 second, technical difficulties. Okay, so I will do this with these poi instead. Cool, so as you're just starting off, moving from finger loops, it's probably a good idea to hold the handles between your fingers like this. You see how I'm kind of anchoring them between my index finger and my middle finger? If you are used to doing your spiral wraps with your fingers and finger loops, then this is going to feel like a comfortable kind of transition for you. It's going to feel very, very similar to the spiral wraps that you're used to. If you want to, what you can start to work on is getting comfortable holding your poi like this between your index fingers and your thumbs. And instead of doing the spiral wraps in such a way that your hands kind of come together in what I call the prayer position, you're instead going to have them come together in what I call the turtle. And the turtle involves both of your palms pointing down towards the ground and each thumb out to the side. That is kind of the way that most people I know who hold their poi between their thumb and index fingers tend to do their spiral wraps. But to start with, continue to do it in that prayer position with the handles between your index and ring fingers. That would be my advice to you. Good question. Good question. Tibar M says, for those interested, there is a Poi Tangles group on Facebook that goes deep into the art of tangles. Outstanding. Those of you guys who have a mat on for your tangles should check that out. Wow, there's so many questions here. Sorry, guys, I'm going to do my best. Ryan Olson, finally caught one of your live streams. Hooray! Yeah, it seems like there's a lot more people on here than there usually are. So I am, for the time being, going to say that it is probably a good idea for me to do these in the evening rather than mid-afternoon. Yeah? Tibar M. Drex, I saw a girl on the Periscope app use rubbing alcohol for the fuel. Oh dear, on her fire poi. Have you heard of this? Rubbing alcohol, no, but I've heard of people using, well, actually, yeah, I have heard of people using rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, right? That is actually one of the preferred fuels up in New York City. Here's the thing that you need to watch out for. So white gas has particular burn characteristics to it, such that it stays bright for a very, very long period of time, and then when it is close to the end of its life, it just goes dim very, very quickly. Isopropyl alcohol basically starts off quite bright, and then the brightness diminishes almost right away. And stop that. And it is very, very, very difficult to get as long a burn out of rubbing alcohol as you can out of white gas. It goes dim very quickly and it goes out very quickly. So, yeah, I have heard of it. What is more typical for people to do is to use mixes of rubbing alcohol and white gas. I did some testing on this with Tara McManus, actually, one time in New York City. And what we tended to find was that people, what we tended to find was that you want to have about a 70-30 mix, 70% white gas in order to spin poi with, because poi will blow out the isopropyl alcohol. You can go with a 50-50 mix if it is more of like a static tool, like palm torches or fans or something like that. But yes, rubbing alcohol for fuel is the thing, isopropyl alcohol. Cool. Michael said, hey, Drex, I wish I had more to give you. Taught me everything I know with poi. It changed my life since I started in January of 2017. Outstanding. I'm so glad to hear that. Cool. Keep on rolling these questions through here, guys. And again, thank you to all of you guys who've been leaving the super chats. If you have a couple bucks to throw my way, it helps out the channel. It helps me be able to keep making these videos for you guys. So any little bit helps. Appreciate it in advance. Oscar Daniel Henao says, Sensei, saludos desde Medellín in Colombia. Hola, ¿cómo está? Hablo un poquito español, pero no practicar mucho. Entonces, tengo unas pocas palabras y no me recuerdo muchos verbos. Lo siento. But it's good for me to be able to practice, right? So, yeah, throw some stuff my way. I'll see if I can figure out what you're talking about. Ryan Olson, this pertains more towards glow poi, but do you have anything to say about very technical string manipulations? The only string manipulations I really do right now are gunslingers, but you can go back in time and see some really interesting stuff that, especially like Chris Rovo was doing. Gunslingers can be thought of as kind of like an offshoot of a type of contact poi that was pretty popular when I first started spinning, which is tether manipulations, which I think when you talk about string manipulations, you're talking about like the glow string equivalent of that. And the short answer is that no, that I don't do a lot of that stuff, but I think it looks really cool. Yeah, I think like look at old glow string videos to see some really interesting applications for that stuff. I think it looks cool. Yeah. Michael says, shit, no way, I'm going to Flame 2. Outstanding. Can't wait to meet you, man. I can't wait to meet you as well. Says, yeah, that's what I mean. Capsules by Flow Toys versus the loops on flow cords. Yeah, cool. I'm glad I'm glad that helped out then. Dan Dollar says, thanks for answering. You're very welcome. I can do the tangles you mentioned. I just can't seem to find flow with them like I've seen other spinners do. I will have to keep trying it till I get it. Yeah. Apparently a lot of you guys on here are big fans of Tangles, so I might have to go more into that world and see if I can't up my game with my flow on them too. Cool. Skrillex, one boy, they need to make a challenge called Glow Spin and make it viral. I'm all about it. Yeah, start that up, please. Dan Dollar says, also thank you, Tibar M. I will definitely check that Facebook group. Yes, that's very helpful. April Choi. Hi, April. Says, Bethany wants to know, how are you so adorable? I don't know. She should tell me because I don't think I am. I think I'm way too grumpy to be adorable, but I appreciate it. So tell her thank you. M. Abbott says, how do you remain motivated to practice day in and day out? So I talked about this a little bit earlier. Short answer is that I think of motivation and inspiration as being very, very fleeting things, and I don't depend on them. What I do is I set goals. I set long-range goals and I set short-range goals. And I trust to that. I show up and I do the work every day to try and attain those goals. And what I find has happened over time is that the satisfaction that I get from pursuing those goals, from showing up and doing the practice every day, becomes this constant sense of satisfaction, whereas motivation and inspiration are very, very temporary. And it's not to say that you shouldn't take advantage of them when you get them, but you shouldn't depend on them. So just to give you guys a little preview, the video that's coming out on my channel tomorrow is all about finding time to practice, because I know that's sometimes difficult. And one of those things that I like to do is I like to set down an appointment. Ash and Fire, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for the $5. That's fantastic. Yay, thank you. I really appreciate it. Also, if you got any more questions, please throw them my way. So, where was I on that point? Set your goals. Work towards those goals every day. And let the satisfaction that comes from that be the thing that guides you. Nobody is motivated every day. Absolutely nobody. There is no job you can have. There is no pursuit that you can have in life where you're going to be motivated to do it each and every day. What you do is you pursue the path of finding fulfillment and dedicating yourself in finding that discipline and everything. And what you're going to find is that motivation will come and go, but that your satisfaction will stay relatively level, and that it will transcend the motivation and inspiration coming and going. If anybody out there wants to delve deeper into this, the philosophy that I use for practice came from a book that I read called Mastery, The Keys to Fulfillment and Long-Term Success. It's a book by a guy named George Leonard. And in it, he basically talked to a lot of people who had mastered particular pursuits and was trying to kind of pin down what they all had in common. And what he found was that without fail, these were people that had made a long-term commitment to achieving a specific goal, showed up to practice regularly, and worked to find new ways of approaching it, you know? No matter how many times you've done a flower, you can still look at it in a new way and find something new to appreciate in it. So I highly recommend you guys check out Mastery by George Leonard. It is a fantastic book, and it completely changed my life. So that is my recommendation to you. Great question. Skrillex One Ploy. I can do flowers, but when I spin around and miss? Can you please clarify that? Because I'm not sure what you mean by that. April Choice says, ¿Cómo estuvo tu viaje a Mexico? So how was my trip to Mexico? Muy bien. Estoy muy contento con este viaje. Gracias. Ryan Olson says, you nailed what I meant about string manipulations. Yes. I asked because you're correct. It is a style of tech that seems to have gone extinct, keeping it old school. I'm trying to learn it. Has not gone extinct. I would say that gunslingers are kind of like keeping it in some respects alive. But you want to go back and check out things like propellers and wibbles. Oh my God, wibbles. Wibbles are one of those things that, like, back in the day, before there was poi juggling and before, there was contact poi that was like, contact juggling balls and everything, there were those few individuals that could do wibbles, and the rest of us were just sitting there with our jaws on the ground and could not understand what was happening. Go check out wibbles, because they're really pretty cool. And if you can get them down, man, there is no kind of tether manipulation that you can't do. Wibbles are like that's where the tech is for tether manipulation so far as I've seen. Cool. M. Abbott, thank you, Drex. This is really eye-opening. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, M. Abbott. Ryan Olson, there's just as much info, and I am in learning most stuff from you. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the context here. Ryan. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. So you really have to dig for this stuff, but there are some old videos by a guy named Matt Terry, a guy from Australia who just like dropped off the face of the planet, but he has some old videos on wibbles that might be interesting for you to check out. Other people you should look up. Chris Rovo's old videos have a lot of string manipulations in them. There's also a guy who used to be at the Vulcan His name is Jordan. Oh my god. I feel so bad I can't remember his last name. Jordan. Do a search for Vulcan Tech Blog and Jordan, and a video that he's in should pop up. He did a bunch of string manipulations back in the day too. Those would be the three people I would point you to. Cool. Bethany Bynes. Hey, Bethany. Both of you guys are on here. Fantastic. April wants to know how you're so brilliant. I mean, coming from April, that's... How's April? I don't even know what to do with that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, April's one of the smarter people that I've met. So if she thinks I'm smart, I'm cool, fantastic. That's a great vote of confidence. I have no idea how she came to that conclusion, but I appreciate it. Oh, cool. You guys are adorable. Thanks. Oh, thank you for the $5, Bethany. Thank you for the super chat. That's really helpful. You're just giving me the super chat because you made me blush, though, which I'll take it. But still, thank you guys for making this fun for me here. Red Poppy 92 says, "What do you enjoy more, tactical moves or free flow?" I enjoy them both. Honestly, I'm at the point right now where I structure my practice in such a way that it is half practicing technical moves and half flow. Because one of my big goals for this year is to improve my dance. And thank you for the super chat, April. You guys are awesome. One of my big goals for this year is to improve my dance, improve my flow. So basically, I structure my practice right now so that I spend half of it working on the really, really, really difficult tricks that I would like to get down, and then half of it throwing on pieces of music that make me want to move, and getting my body to move to them. Because I'm really, really bad at So part of this is that I am unusually, though not exceptionally tall. I'm about 6'1", and growing up, after you get above about 5'10", you start to realize that most of the man-made objects in this world have been created for people who are smaller than you. I can't count the number of times I've gone into a hotel and the shower head is like a chest level for me. So I always kind of feel like I'm in other people's way in a lot of respects. So I kind of keep very close in with my body and everything. And the goal when I dance is always to kind of let go of that, to give myself permission to take up space. Because I take up a lot of it. I used to do regular dance classes and dance performance and everything. And occasionally it was a challenge for the other dancers because, I, in most cases, had a good 6 inches on everybody who was on stage with me. And what that translated to is that I ate up about, probably a good 20 to 30% more room than everybody else. And that becomes a challenge for collisions and things like that. So I enjoy both. I enjoy being able to open up with my body and getting to explore more. And I also enjoy getting down new tech. What I'm working on right now, by the way, is getting down my in-spin gunslinger flowers, which is a whole challenge in and of itself, and that I wanted to figure out in 2017, and I just never got around to it, but now it is priority number 1 for me in 2018. So, yeah. April Jennifer Choi asks, what's your favorite candy? M&Ms. Love M&Ms. Although, a close second is gummy bears. Gummy bears are the kind of go-to food that my friends give me when I've had a hard day. So gummy bears, all about it. All right. Ryan Olson, you're awesome. I'll start with the Vulcan Tech Blog. Vulcan, so VULCAN Tech Blog, and the names you gave me. Thank you so much for what you're doing, Drex. My pleasure. And Bethany Mine says, I admit you're fun to fluster. I can only imagine. So my partner Lydia, who's at Ariel's class right now, I have every faith is going to watch this at some point. and just absolutely like just crack up as she was watching this. So thank you for entertaining both her and I. Cool. It is 10:15. I had only planned on being on here until 9:30, but if you guys are interested, I can stay on until 10 o'clock. If you would like for that to happen, keep on throwing questions at me. Because that ultimately is what's going to determine how long I stay on here, is how much stuff there is for me to answer. I hope you guys don't mind if I chew as I speak to you here. Oh, good stuff. So yeah, send me those questions, please, because otherwise I will draw things to a close unless people have more help that they would like from me or more ways that they would like to fluster me. Actually, I'm not going to give you that challenge. No. Cool. David Rothkopf. Hey Drex, I just started Poi a couple months ago. Fantastic! Way to pick up an awesome and creative new hobby. And I can only attribute it to your videos from circa 2012. Oh, that's back in the day. Thank you, friend. You are more than welcome. I'm glad you enjoy those videos because I have thought many, many, many times about making some of my older videos either private or unlisted because a lot of those older videos are terrible. The lighting is bad. I hadn't really gotten comfortable on camera just yet. That took quite a while. So I'm leaving them up for the time being, and I'm glad to hear that they're helping you out. David Rothkopf furthermore asks, are you wearing the same shirt from those videos too? Yeah, I've had this shirt forever and a day. Ironically enough, I actually lost it for a year when I went to go visit some friends in Philadelphia for a party, for one of the PEX parties. And I knew that I had lost it, and I didn't know where I had lost it. And the next time I came around for that same party the next year, I showed up there, and my friends were just like, "Hey, you left this behind." I'm like, "Oh, cool, great surprise." So yeah, it's this one has been with me quite a long time, and I have a really, really awful habit of holding on to clothes for far longer than I should, and there's no holes in this just yet, so I think I'm probably going to hold on to it for a while longer. Yeah. And David Rothkopf further says, no, dude, please don't make them private. Okay, I won't. Those videos are a treasure. If you say so. One man's treasure is another man's trash, and I'm glad that they're your treasure. They are not mine. So I will leave them up, and I appreciate hearing that. Aurora Flair says, hey, Drex. How do you just flow? I find I forget half my moves when I try to just flow. Thanks for everything you do. I'm a huge fan, and I think you're a beautiful person. Why, thank you so much, Aurora. So the short answer to that is that I forget half of the moves that I know when I try and flow. I think that, testing yourself on what moves you know is not necessarily the point of flow, but the point of flow is kind of finding movement. And using that as your basis of, sorry, I'm looking for my water bottle here, because my throat is getting very, very dry. Where did I put that? Sorry, give me just 1 second. Here we go. Okay, cool. Let me wet my whistle just a second here. So, if you want to improve on your flow, my advice to you is to do what I'm doing right now and practice it. Say that you're going to tell yourself for 30 minutes every day, you're going to put on some of your favorite music and you're just going to move around to it. Now make sure you're also spending time learning new tricks and working on your tech and everything, because as time goes on, the tech is going to feel more comfortable and it's going to get integrated in your flow. I really truly find that the state that you're really looking for is a place where the tricks that you've assimilated become so second nature to you that you can do them without thinking about it. And that once you reach kind of a critical mass of tricks that you've integrated into your body to that degree, that you're going to find that your capacity to flow between different tricks is going to improve dramatically. So work on finding the movement, work on adding tricks to your vocabulary, work on polishing the tricks in your vocabulary. Make it so that you can do them in your sleep. And what you're going to find is that they're going to start coming out as you're just experimenting with movement. Most of the time when I'm flowing, I have no idea what trick I'm doing. And I kind of like it that way. I kind of like that it becomes all about the dance and the movement and everything. But good question. Dan Dollar, don't get rid of the old videos. There's still stuff I want to learn from there. Okay, the videos won't. I won't remove the videos. Okay. Cool. So, Ryan Olson, so you helped me get the behind the back 3-beat weave. Any tips for doing it in the other direction? I'm going to assume that you learned it going the reverse 3-beat weave, and now you need to learn how to do it going forwards. So the exact same techniques work, is the short answer. Also, we're down to the last 7 minutes. Keep throwing those questions at me, because we've only got 7 minutes left to go. Okay, so so the first things first is to get comfortable doing tic-tacs behind your back with the poi spin forwards. So when you learned your last behind the back weave, you were doing it in such a way that, like, essentially you were like walking around from what was a forward weave, and it was like going past your ankles on the way up on either side of your body, right? Now you need to switch that. So it's going past your shoulder as it goes in front of you each time. Back and forth, right? And you do that with each hand, going back and forth, back and forth. Once you got that down, it's time to start learning your tic-tacs. Forwards, behind the back tic-tacs suck. There's no way around it. I'm sorry in advance. So you want to get one hand kind of darting under the other, and then the other hand darting underneath the other. Right hand under, and then work on left hand under. Oh. And then work on trying to keep your hands swapping, which one's going on top. So I do right hand under, left hand under, right hand under, left hand under, right hand under, left hand under. The really, really, really important thing to realize here is that as you're doing this, let's imagine that I've got my hand sticking behind my back right here. As I'm doing that initial tic-tac, when I was going backwards, my first move was to go on the outside of my hand. That makes life easy. What's harder now is that you're aiming to go in between your hand and your body for that first tic-tac, going each side of your body. It's a lot harder, but it's not impossible. But you try and get that right hand underneath the left. You try and get that left hand. Whoops. That left hand. Underneath the right. And you just go back and forth between them. Cool. Good luck with that one, because it's hard and it takes a while. Don't get discouraged. It just takes some time. Cool. Red Poppy 92. My boyfriend began poi around June and has watched many of your videos to practice. We really think you're amazing. Thank you so much. We're from Maryland, and he's also going to bring his poi to the Art Tech House exhibit. Awesome. Also, if you guys are in the area, I am teaching a 6-week session of poi classes in Tacoma Park at Dance Exchange. If you go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/DrexFactorPoi, you'll see the event listed right there. You guys should totally come sign up to take classes from me, because I would love to teach you guys. It'll be every Wednesday from 6:30 to 8, and I'd love to have you. Come around, please. Andrea Kiru says, thanks for the chat. Have a good night. P.S. Your cat is cute. I agree. My cat is adorable, if not also somewhat incorrigible. David Rothkopf, gotta go. Just wanted to say thank you for your contributions. I would never have learned poi without your videos. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. Have a great night. Ryan Olson, nailed it again. Have a good night, man. Fantastic. Michael, do you practice outside in the winter months? Yes, God help me. Or do you spin in the house? Yes, it depends. It gets bitter cold here in the mountains, and I'm restricted to indoors. It gets bitter cold here in D.C. as well. Today it was in the 20s or 30s in D.C. today. Fahrenheit, not Celsius, clearly. And I went outside anyway. I I have a couple go-to extremely warm layers that I put on. I wear 2 sets of pants. I wear gloves. I wear a very, very warm, but at the same time form-fitting jacket. And I managed to last about an hour outside today, and then I came inside and did another hour here in my living room. I like getting outside simply because like my home office is also inside. So it's good to go outside and be in a different space for a little while. Yeah. So I do both. I do both. It's not fun practicing in the winter. There it goes. That's just part of what we face. One thing to look into, see if there's a local rec center or a college that has a dance studio that you might be able to get into for a few hours a week. Or another option there is if you got a local YMCA. One thing that's really popular amongst jugglers is getting a gym membership, like a YMCA membership, and going in and using the racquetball course to practice in. Also works for us. Why not? Lightwave 1. Thanks so much, Drex. I started last July. I love the 1-minute tutorials. Fantastic. I'm left-handed, and I find initiating tricks with my right more difficult. Do you, with your non-dominant hand, find the same? Absolutely. It's a lot harder for me to use my left hand with a lot of tricks. I've balanced myself. I've been a lot better about balancing myself out in the past few years. But yes, it is a challenge for me. Absolutely. Red Poppy. I'm definitely trying to get him out to one of the classes. It's hard due to work, but hopefully we'll be at 1 or 2. Laugh out loud. Awesome. I would love to have you guys. Cool. We are down to our last 2 minutes here, guys. So if anybody has 1 or 2 last questions, go ahead and throw them out there. But I'm going to start wrapping this up here. And I'm going to do that by first and foremost saying thank you to all of you guys for watching and giving me your awesome questions. If you would like to support the channel, you can sign up to do so at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and you get awesome rewards for that. You get access to behind-the-scenes material. You find out things that I'm working on, and you get to have a say in some of the stuff that I work on. I frequently ask the opinions of my patrons. You also get access to all of my content the day before the rest of the world. You get, in fact, the video that is coming out tomorrow, you would already have access to. Cool. So, yeah. Visit me on Patreon, if you would. Also, I want to thank the friends of the channel, 5 companies that have signed up to sponsor my videos, and I really appreciate it. They help keep the trains running around here. Those companies are Dark Monk, Amazing Lights, Flow Toys, Spinballs, and Ultra Poi. Thank you, one and all friends of the channel. Yeah, and thank you guys. If you would like, aside from the classes that I am teaching, I have 2 online courses that are now available at my new learning site. They are Beyond the Basics of Poi, which teaches behind the back spinning, as well as isolations and hybrids and things like that, and a expanded course on gunslingers that includes more stuff on spiral wraps, gunslinger flowers, etc. And that's available at learn.drexfactor.com. So, you guys should check that out. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you to everybody who left me a super chat. It is super, super, super helpful. I hope you guys all have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys again in a couple weeks for another live stream like this. Mwah! I love you guys. Have a great night. Peace out.